What's going on, guys? We've got another interview here on my Valorant Insights, and I've got none other than Martin, who is an incredible PUBG fanatic. He's also an ex-pro in Call of Duty, an ex-pro in COD, in PUBG, and also one of the best analysts in the world, in my opinion, when it comes to PUBG. This man has grinded out
Thanks so much.
games, and you also play a hell of a lot of games just in general, right? You're very much like me, where
Oh yeah,
you're just a hardcore gamer.
yeah. I tend to go quite hardcore, way too hardcore actually. Sometimes I think when Atlas came out, I had 3 weeks straight with 18.5 hours played,
Wow.
like average, because we wanted to be number one. And, like so, we recruited 400 people and stuff like that. So it's kind of across all games. I'm just a gamer, like yeah,
Yeah.
most of the guys out there.
You're completely committed to it. Now, you're one of the lucky ones, right? You got to take part in the 3 day
Yeah,
weekend of just playing out non-stop. You played just over 30 hours, which is very
yeah.
impressive. It seems like a lot of people tried to hit as many hours as they could in the game. But before you saw, right, before you were invited to this, kind of from what you'd seen in terms of alpha footage and what Riot had released, what were your initial thoughts? What did you make of it?
So I was thinking, I was kind of like, I had really high hopes. My expectations was really high because obviously it's Riot Games. We know they're
Yeah.
a triple A publisher, and they do great stuff, and they have lots of experience. And also from what you've heard through the scene, and like they've hired some very knowledgeable people, so former CS pros. They've had like a lot of kind of boot camps where they took in people, put them in NDA, and asked them what they thought and how they can tune it. So I had really high expectations, but I was just blown away. Like I was feeling like I played a released AAA game that was just super smooth. And before this, I should for to answer your question, before this, like I was expecting a game that was kind of arcadey, cartoony,
Yeah.
because you know that if you want to succeed with a new FPS, you need to take all the like kind of the negatives away, right? You
Hmm.
need to be able to remove blood. You need to have kind of the more arcadey style. So I was expecting that already, but my expectations were high coming into this.
So high expectations, and we all
Yeah,
seen what had kind of been involved in it, like you said about hiring the right kind of staff and people behind it to put this game together. The moment you actually got your hands on it, did it just feel like, oh, okay, this is a really polished game, like you were saying? Because my,
yeah.
my thoughts is when you go into these betas, right, especially alphas, are really, it's like I've played a couple of alphas, and you go, oh, I can see what they're trying to do here, but my God, this needs changing. This is bugged. This is not too
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
But
I
it
played
really
I
wasn't
played
that
my
way.
fair share. Like I played my fair share of early access and beta, and as you said, like you kind of have you expect some stuff that is expect maybe some lag and you expect maybe some servers going down, but like coming into a closed alpha, as I said before, like I was just blown away. It felt like a triple A release game. Like it was so smooth. FPS was banging out there, and it was such a good experience. And that's also why I just kept playing it. They restricted some of our hours. We couldn't queue too much. I think they also wanted to make sure we didn't play too hard, so they kind of restricted some of the hours. They shut down the servers in between the nights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just such a polished game.
Now everyone keeps talking about, oh, it's very similar to CS. It's gonna be the competitor to
Yeah,
CS. I don't really care about the whole CS killer meme, but for you, obviously, as
nah.
someone who knows about games, knows about Counter Strike, did it feel very much like a true competitive game from the offset?
So like as you say, like it's stupid when people are saying this is a killer, this is the killer of that of battle royales, CS. So all these games are gonna
Yeah,
exist. Like there's so much gamers coming into, or more people are gonna be able to have PCs. So this will obviously it'll shift around some players,
of course.
but this will like it'll take this game will take like a market share from all the games, like the
Mm.
MOBAs, your card games, your FPS, all that. It'll take a big chunk out of those. Obviously, it'll be a very big game. Like we've seen, like League of Legends is a massive game. All of this, it's going to be free to play, so it's going to be like a massive game, and it's going to take share from everything. But it felt like if you want to kind of put together, I, I played like 1,000 hours or so in CS:GO and thousands of hours in the others as well. And when I played with some of the CS:GO guys and some of the CS:GO pros, they were all saying this feels like Source. Like the way it kind of moves, like it feels
Ooh.
like Source. So how it kind of if and for me that felt the same way as well.
Mm.
I would say 70% of the game is like the aim, the stuff you can take straight from CS and put in, and then you have 30% that is where your Rainbow Six Siege, your PUBG players, your Fortnite players, kind of the having abilities and having to think that kind of extra dimension where you put down like smokes, how long they last. But if you talk to like a very competitive skill and level on this game, you're gonna take so much time before you go into the game, kind of setting up your meta, because you have all these agents. You have so many kind of ways where you can execute a site with all these skills, and obviously there's 9 now. There's gonna be more in the future.
Yeah.
There's gonna have so much depth to it around the game before you get into the game as well, which is really exciting.
And you touched on a good point there, right, about how close it is to CS. You mentioned Source. So I interviewed on screen. He was the first person I spoke to. He said in terms of movement and recall and stuff, it gave him that like 1.6 style of feel. But he said it's very much going to be the CS players kind of ruling the roost. Now, you're someone who comes from COD and obviously BR games like PUBG and stuff like that. Was it quite natural for you to feel things when you came into the game, or did you feel like, oh, okay, I need to make some more adjustments in terms of like aim, sensitivity, spraying?
Right. So spray wise, when you hip fire, it feels very much like CS, because it's a random, it's a pattern, but it's a random pattern. So like the Vandal, the AK like gun, it will make like a 7, but it could also be a mirrored 7, and the like how the bullets go into can also be random as well. But then you go on the majority of the guns, especially the ARs and the DMR. Like it has you can hip fire obviously, but you can also ADS. And when you come to there and you're holding like some of the longer paths and stuff like that, if you're holding an alleyway, that feels very much like I felt home straight from PUBG there. Like with the red dot, I was just it felt like that as well. So what I did, I calculated. So the game is 103 horizontal FOV, and that's what I play in PUBG. So I calculated my PUBG sensitivity and put that straight into to Valorant, and that it just felt like exactly like I'm used to. So that's perfect.
That's so crazy because I think on-screen gave me the numbers like of how you can translate it for different games, and that's perfect, right? Because how long do we spend when we go into new games where we're like, oh, the FPS doesn't feel right, like we can't get the sensitivity the correct way, and you have to make some adjustments across it. Now, one thing you mentioned I thought was interesting, and I want to see your take on it, was he said when you're doing like the long range shots, right, it's the crosshair moves down like it does in PUBG. Do you feel more comfortable with that than what maybe CS players would do?
I don't know. I've played so much CS, so much PUBG, so like it just felt so fluid already. And like when you spray, like obviously when you have depends how your gun is, like recoil will go upwards, right? It feels recoil wise, it feels like when you hip fire, it feels like CS. When you ADS, it feels like PUBG. So and I can't. It's really hard to explain, but when you when you ADS, it feels like the extra time you take, you only want to do it on really long range, or like 20-30 meters or above, and everything else you just hip fire. But I guess it just comes natural. Like you try to adapt, right? Or your brain tries to adapt. When you played so many different FPS games, right? You just try to adapt what you feel is the best from the experience you have from before. So like it feels very if you've played both CS and you've played other games where you can ADS, like it will feel pretty natural to you, and it'll come kind of, depending on how much experience time, it'll come kind of natural to you, and you'll feel, because you get punished if you ADS too much. You'll get punished for like the time it takes to go in between.
Yes.
If you use too much, like if you come from other games where you use a lot of the abilities, like if you're Overwatch player, for example, if you overuse your abilities, like the time it takes from using the ability, being done with it, and then like taking the gun out as well, you really have to time that. Just like you don't run at a guy with a flashbang in CS:GO. You don't run the guy with a smoke, right? You have to kind of calculate where you use it and when you kind of take that time to like either cast a spell or like take the time to put the gun away and stuff like that. So it came real natural to me. It felt really smooth to me. But it'll take time for people that is only used to playing like one game. If you're only played Rainbow Six Siege, it'll take some time to kind of adjust to this. I played against some of the Rainbow Six Siege pros, and some of the guys, they were clapping people. Like they were dropping 30, 40 kills. Like they were insane. I played against Shaiko as well. Obviously a huge talent, but he was just insane. Like he dropped 30 kills nearly every game.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about the abilities and stuff there, right? And I got that from looking at some of the gameplay footage that's already been out, that you have to be very careful. You can't just like spam abilities out. When you're looking at the abilities, did you feel like they had a natural place in the game? It didn't seem like it was taking too much away from the traditional competitive first-person shooter?
So my approach when I was explaining, I was obviously, when we had on the third we could release content and stuff like that. So I had a very like analytical, of course, approach to how the game was played, And my idea with like how I wanted to explain stuff was like the different abilities. You think of them as smokes and molotovs. That's
Yeah.
the majority of the abilities. Then you have some mobility abilities. Jet has like you can jump up in the air, updraft, and then you can dash as well. Um, and then there's obviously some ultimates that is, some would say, overpowered, but you get them quite rarely, right?
Yeah.
It takes some time for you to get. You played maybe every third, fourth, or even fifth round if you don't get that much kills, because that's how they charge up.
Mm-hmm.
But what was important to me is they didn't feel intrusive. It didn't feel like I was playing a game where, oh, when I have my ultimate, I just kill everybody. You need to have like the skill to be able to kind of play it. With Viper's ultimate, it's like you make a big poison cloud above you, and if you stay inside that, people will take damage when they come in, and you can stay in there forever. Jet's ultimate is obviously, I've talked about this a few times, and the other guys I've seen as well. They also talked about it. It's a hit scan, 5 daggers, so that's basically 5 headshots, and they get refresh as well. I see them probably getting nerfed soon. They were pretty OP, but it didn't feel intrusive, which was really important to me. It felt
Yeah.
like they were trying to make, okay, the majority of the characters had a smoke, a flashbang, or a molotov, and that's how they kind of wanted to make the spells around that. So it felt super intuitive, and it didn't feel intrusive at all.
Yeah, that's such a key part for me because I felt
Yeah,
like I enjoyed, for example, Overwatch when it first came out, but sometimes I was like, well, I'm just not going to do anything because these
yeah,
skills are like far too much compared to my what I want to see in more like aim wise and skill
yeah.
and ability and that side of things. Now, when you were talking about the agents, obviously you played a good amount of time. Some
hmm
people like to just stick with a few agents. Did you play a lot of them? Did you try and
I
mix
play
it
all
up?
of them. Yeah,
Oh
I had to.
wow!
I had to play all of them. Like I also played so many matches, so I could do it. I
Yeah,
played all of them at least in one match, and I played all of them in the training area.
nice.
But I think 40% of my games was probably with Viper, because she has a something called a poison cloud. It's a
Mhm.
smoke you can pick up again and redeploy it,
What?
and like it's just super strong. And she has gas, and when you're not using any of the gas abilities,
Yeah,
then it fills up again. So like it's kind of an unlimited smoke that you can like reuse. She's just really good.
that's
Um,
solid.
and I think and she has a like she can put down like a complete solid wall
Hmm.
where it's like small metal things in the ground that emits gas that will come up like with a permanent kind of wall,
Yes, seen
and
that.
you can redeploy that and stuff. It's just super strong. I really enjoyed Viper, so I think 40% of my games was Viper, and then I played everything like all the others ones as well.
Okay, so Viper's your favorite in that one.
Yeah, for
What
sure.
is there like a composition you saw? Because I know you had like the pre-made as well. We had some 5v5s in there. So
Yeah.
was there like constant, say, one character, so one agent was always used basically in every game, or was it still kind of mixed around?
Jet was interlocked every single time, due due to the people wanted to make content. When you get the
Of
ultimate, okay,
course, yeah.
I can maybe make a sick 5 one-click A's here, stuff like that. But I think Jet was the only one that got interlocked.
Hmm.
But I like from a composition look, I tried to tier some of the agents. I would say that I will always want to see. Viber is, in my opinion, one of them. Sage is number two, and Brimstone is number three. That I think you should always have in
Nice,
the current meta, because
brilliant.
they all have a lot of utilities. They have smokes, molotovs, redeployable walls. Like
Hmm.
that kind of three-man meta there. I think that's gonna be going forward. I think that's gonna be super important. And then the other ones, they can be the duelist, like the Phoenix, the Jet, the Omen.
Yeah.
However, the other kind of two fraggers, I would assume that's the way you can kind of play it, unless you want to go super defensive, putting in a lot of time, and if you want to get as many rounds as you can on the defender side.
And in terms of when you looked at like tactically how it would play out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see as the attackers and defenders, did you kind of get the feel of like, oh, okay, that we can play this very like strat heavy, or do you feel like sometimes it's a bit more run gun gung ho kind of style?
So I think so. There's two maps right now. There's
Yeah.
Bind, which is two bomb sites, and there's Haven, which is three bomb sites. And how you kind of strat your way out of Bind is how you would do in CS:GO. Like, okay, let's
Hmm.
go A short. Let's make sure we have somebody lurking. We have or we have an anchor. We have somebody that's holding from behind. And then you push three guys towards let's say mid or long, or one guy's go toilet, lurking, whatever. That was very much that way, and that was slightly defensive sided. Like as a defenders, I would say that you could get more rounds than you could as attackers, depending on like the skill level, of course.
Yeah.
But then when you come over to Haven, it's kind of the other way around. We have three sides. There's more ways to go for. As defenders, you kind of have to go with a like 1-1-1-2 split with the other guys being ready. And obviously that's different. So when I was playing with some of the CS:GO guys, they were like, they had some ideas on Haven, but they felt very much at home on Bind, the two-side map. But on Haven, you like, that's where if you put a lot of hours into that and get some thought into that, you could maybe come up with a way to like really well defend that.
Yeah, because in my mind, when you're saying 3 bomb sites, I'm like, okay, that really splits up the dynamic of how big a site is, where you maybe place more players, but also maybe you want to have your solid individual solo skill player just to hold one site on his own, or the smaller site, for example. So that's interesting. They've gone away from the conventional just having 2 sites. I kind of like that. That's the first I've heard of it.
I think of it as Dust 2, where you nearly always have a guy in mid, right?
Yes.
And depending on how strat heavy your opponent is, sometimes they go a lot of B. Like they'll make an execute on B where they smoke off CT and then they go mid and B. So and sometimes obviously you have 3 guys on A, but let's say that you could hold 2 guys on A, 2 guys on B, and 1 guy in mid always, right?
Yeah.
And you can also hold 3 guys on A, 1 guy B, 1 guy mid. So that's kind of how I feel like you can kind of shift around your players on the different sides. And I was just thinking, yeah, of course it's an extra side, but it's not uncommon that you have to cover 3, maybe even 4 kind of routes sometimes, right? Because you'll have A short, you'll have A long, you'll have a mid, you'll have a B short, B long, like all, from CS and from other games even. So it didn't feel like too much. But obviously you have to strat your way out of it, and you have to figure out, and that's where I just told where if I played 5 stack, if I played solo, I just played Viper. I said, guys, I'm gonna hold B alone. You guys just play 2A, 2C, and then just be ready to help me, because I could literally, I had the redeployable smoke, the redeployable wall, so I just shifted in between those, and like after people coming in, running into me with a stupid shotgun or like some other stuff where I just killed a few guys, they just gave up on B, right? So you kind of want to force them out to the other sides. And then you just make sure that the guys, they can kind of shift like a string, just from other games again, or even from football.
Really
so
smart.
it felt supernatural. And if you have somebody that is very experienced, if you have somebody that's all like, they know already, okay, I can solo hold this side if I do this, then you can, with backup, you can easily do that as well.
Brilliant. That sounds really good then. So it's definitely, with the abilities and what you can have in the agents, can be a way to play out these 3 mappers. And obviously we'd like to see where we can get more maps to come out. Obviously we've only got 2 for now. Now, in terms of obviously what you did, you said you went very analytical with how you looked at the game. Was there something off the, like, straight away that you thought this needs changing, or this could be added? Is there a couple of ideas you might have had?
So like, that's just the crazy thing to me, is it was so balanced from the get-go, right? The only thing I could think of was like, sure, there's 3 sides in this map, but like it's just a different take on it, right?
Yeah.
But all the agents, they were already so balanced. Like it was crazy to me how I didn't feel like, okay, this is clear. Like you have maybe in MOBAs and some other games, okay, this is clear. This is kind of the 3-4 guys you always need to have on your roster, right?
Yeah.
You can kind of swap that around. Like even the 3 agents that I said, you don't even need to have those. You can play, if you have super aggressive playstyle, you can play with other ones as well. But for me, like from a standard like kind of default, I just feel like when you have characters that have a lot of utilities, that have maybe already have a smoke and a Molotov or a flash, if you have that kind of setup, you're strong on both sides. And then there's some givens. I feel like Brimstone, he has 3 smokes. They only cost 100 each.
Wow.
And they last for super long. Like you just need to have them both on the defensive side and the offensive side, obviously, because he's 3 smokes for 100 each. Just it's too strong. And then again, Sage as well, a permanent ice wall that lasts for 40 seconds.
I heard it was really long. Yeah, that sounded crazy.
It's 40 seconds, and to get through it, you either have to shoot it or you have to jump up on it from boosting somewhere else or using another Sage wall and stuff like that. Like it's it feels really balanced. But if we're looking at purely what I think will be nerfed, I think the length of Sage's wall will be nerfed.
Yep.
And I think Jet's ultimate will be nerfed, so she doesn't get all 5 knives back on a kill. It'll maybe be 2 or 3 knives instead.
Okay, interesting. Now, for gamers coming into this and looking to play it and trying to understand how to play Valorant, have you got any tips or any advice of what they might look for and what they should start doing straight away?
So first of all, translate your sensitivity from other games. There's some tools that are shared pretty much everywhere. YouTube, as you said, on screen actually made a really good video, but it's pretty easy to kind of translate sensitivity. Then there's a training mode. Go into that before you take a game, before you play your first game. Go into that, try out all the agents, get a feel of it, get a feel of the the movement, because it's slightly slower than some other games movement wise. So try to get a feel of that, and then try out the different guns, like get a feel of those. And then figure out like your style of play. If you want to be kind of the support player, if you want to be aggressive, if you have that from other games, try to look into and research some of the. You probably, like, if you're interested in Valorant, you've probably already seen some videos. You already probably know what a few agents you want to try.
Yeah.
And then the most important tip: play more than just one. Because imagine when, let's say, Jet get nerfed, Sage get nerfed, or like try to play some like 2 or 3 and play across some of the different classes. Like play both initiators, play sentinels, play controllers. Like try to play all of them so you can actually swap around. If you want to really try hard when you get into a 5-man stack, people will expect you not just to be a Jet insta-locker like everybody else is probably going to be.
Interesting. Well, Martin, thank you so much for your time, mate. I'm sure we'll
We'll
hop onto some games later on because we're only a few hours away from getting this started. I guess that's what you're going to do all of today?
Yeah, but today and tonight, tomorrow, I don't know how long I'm gonna play. I'm not stopping until I get 40 kills, man.
I love it, mate. I love the commitment. Thank you very much again for that, and I hope
you.
you guys on YouTube have enjoyed watching all of this good content. There's plenty more Valorant content coming out here for the Valorant Insights that I'm doing, and as the game develops, as the game grows, we'll continue to watch how things change, but we'll see you on the next video.